these people deserve to see your best as much as the Saturday night show, right? And you don't know who's going to be watching. You just don't know.
Yeah.
Anytime you do something, you don't know who's going to watch. And they may have only that to judge your ability on.
Right.
You know? So, like, you should probably do well.
Creativity demands that you stay in motion. It continually reveals you to yourself. And my friendship with Peter over the last 7 years has continued to serve as that same reflection. Peter was the guy to give me my first big stage opportunity in a play called Ideation, for which he is the artistic director. Since that time, he's been in numerous videos of mine over the years as I initially discovered filmmaking, and has bolstered an incredible acting career in his own right. It wouldn't be a stretch to say that Peter is one of the premier talents of the Midwest. In this episode of the podcast, we discuss what it means to move towards the artist's path and put everything into your best work. Welcome to episode 23.
What got you started with your career? When did acting become the ambition?
You know, that's tricky. Because I think, you know, if you look back far enough in your life, you'll be like, I guess this has always been kind of like a part of what I do.
Yeah.
Right? Even go back to like, you know, playing make-believe and dress up when you're a kid. Right?
Yeah.
So, and I think, you know, tons of people do that when they're young. Right? Mm-hmm. And then I was always interested in it. I started doing theater in high school. Right. And in a way, it was sort of like, why did this take me so long to do this? Even though I'd sort of done some other kinds of stuff earlier than that, but I never was in like a play or anything in middle school necessarily, or you know, in elementary school you decide if the Three Billy Goats Gruff counts. Might, but anyway, so I really got hooked on it when I was in high school. Yeah, and that was like the thing I really, really, really loved, and I had an aptitude for it, which was good. And so then when I went off to college, I didn't know what I was going to do, you know, and but I. The things that I really loved, like what are the things I really loved? Well, I really loved acting. I really loved theater. And I really loved history. Like I'm kind of a nerd, a history nerd. Just love it. Because I like stories.
Right.
I like
history
people.
Is the greatest story ever.
It's what it is, right?
Yeah.
And people are like you said before, like you have to sort of like learn about the world and like become well-rounded and like absorb all these different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, they're always part and parcel of the same
They
thing.
are.
Like I feel super lucky every time I get to start a new script, because a lot of times I maybe know something about the time or the place or the people or whatever, but I get a chance to like learn about it, you know, and that's great. So I'm like, hey, I get to learn about this whole other person that had never occurred to me before, or this situation. So I don't know. When I went to college, I was like, well, I'll either become, I don't know what I was going to do, you know, I'll either become a history professor or I'll be an actor. And then as college just went along, I'm like, no, I'm going to be an actor. That's what I'm going to do. And, you know, good luck. but I did. And so I got out of college, and I was fortunate enough to get a job with one of these, like, touring children's theater things that go around.
Well, that's kind of hard to do, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I'd like to say that it is, but maybe it's not so hard to do. They always need people.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. But I got a chance to like go around and be an actor full time and do all these like educational theater across the Upper Midwest, which, you know, it's fine. But it was an interesting challenge, and it made me be like, this is what I want to do, even though I don't particularly like working on these shows. But I was like, hey, I can do 20 shows a week, no problem. And the same thing for 6 months, you know what I mean? And so when I was out doing that, but I had this kind of unusual schedule. And so when I was out doing that, I remember I was sitting in this hot tub with a friend of mine in like the middle of Wisconsin somewhere. Nice. We were bemoaning the fact that we couldn't audition for anything because we were always on the road, you know?
Yeah.
So it was literally like, hey, you want to put on a show? And so she and I and some other people, like some friends of ours, we just sort of like, who were all actors but in sort of like unusual situations schedule-wise.
Yeah.
We're like, let's put on a show, guys. So we did, and we just found a script that we thought would work for all of us, and just started rehearsing it. We didn't know we were going to do it or what was going to happen or anything.
That's so awesome.
And then we found a place to perform it, and we sort of like built in this sort of temporary kind of theater in this there's this old restaurant in the suburb of Minneapolis called Crystal, and there's this restaurant, this Greek restaurant, it's called Nikhil's.
Yeah.
And they had it was run by these brothers, the Nikhil brothers. They had that restaurant and this place called Santorini, which is another bar.
Right.
Anyway, so this one actress who was in our show, she was a waitress there. And so through that, they were like, yeah, we've got this like basically like this party room downstairs. It was a cool room. Yeah, we'll let you guys have it for 2 weeks. Do whatever you want. We're like, okay, like there's a bar in the corner. You just got to keep the bar stocked. You know, get to have a bartender. I was like, that sounds great, right?
Yeah.
Sure. And it was a comedy. So like liquor them up.
Yeah.
So we did. So because we had that, we like built the whole set in there, and then we brought in like lights and like rudimentary stuff, and built audience seating and the whole deal, and did this show. And like you said, like the first time sometimes is the hardest.
Yes.
But sometimes the second time is the hardest.
Really?
Because you got to do it again, right? Just saying.
For theater, huh?
Yeah, well, for any project,
film,
you
you're like,
to
oh my God,
follow it up,
it
right?
was so hard to do the first time.
Yeah. You're like, well, but seriously, so we did it, and it worked pretty well, and we made like a tiny amount of money, and instead of like
great.
giving it to each other, we just put it back in to do the next production. Yeah, and so it was like, well, it wasn't so bad. Let's do it again. So we did, and then we just kind of kept going, and over the years, it sort of evolved, and then from that, from doing my own stuff, then eventually I start working for other people, and
That's so amazing.
Make a career that way.
I'm so surprised. We had kind of a similar. There's some overlap there.
Right.
My buddy, he literally just called his theater company that he started. These friends of mine, theater company.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it's just a couple of friends.
Yeah.
And every summer we'd be like, okay, well, what are we gonna do? We had nothing to do. We can't audition for any. We always have like the weird ideas, like what if we're doing The Departed, but it's a play?
Yeah, sure.
Right?
do you think they notice? Yeah.
Like we have flip phones, and like what if it's like 1930s Departed?
Yeah.
We always wanted to make The Departed.
Sure, yeah. Everything's got to be about The Departed. River Rats Part 2, The Departed. Yeah.
Huge influence, actually.
Yeah.
If you think about it, like there is some the Irish are a part of that story as well. But we did Tartuffe and Othello. It was always churches,
Yeah.
The biggest venue we got was the Bryant Lake Bowl,
Oh yeah.
and we had to pay. Like we lost money because we all had to like ask our parents for money,
Sure.
like $95 to like have
So for the space, yeah.
and like license. Because one year we did company,
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
and so. You have to actually to do it right. You have to like pay the licensing.
You do, yeah.
$750 for the summer or something like that. So we all chipped in and paid it. But
Cool.
there's
That's
really
nice to get started, man.
Yeah, I think it's almost like it's always about like creating something out of nothing.
It is.
It really is actually creating something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Like I think that in some ways is like at the core of what it means to be a human being. Is like we participate in the act of creation, which is kind of astounding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we make something out of nothing. And that's cool.
I feel like if we don't do that, we will want to die.
I think so.
I think that's right. I think that's one of the foundational reasons why, a lot of people, we have this desire to have kids. Like you gotta have kids, right? Because that's like, that is the most profound act of creation of. It's not out of nothing, but it's like pretty magical how to.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't fully. I can't make sense of it.
Kinda. Yeah.
But
There wasn't this person here before, and now here they are.
it's insane to make a whole new person.
Yeah,
That's
right.
like the
And you
craziest
don't
thing.
know them. You're like,
And you have no idea what
hi.
they're gonna be like.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly.
control it, like-
Now here you are. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like something out of nothing. But I think as an artist, maybe I think everyone feels that to a degree. But as an actor or a musician, or a novelist, you feel it to a profound degree.
To create something.
To create something, like if you couldn't act, you would feel you would probably feel like so much tension.
I don't know what I would do. Like, I don't know what I would do. It would be brutal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for me, and especially, I think it's year round for me, but especially in the winter months, it's like, what am I gonna do with my evenings? When the sun goes down so soon, like. The working on this was so beneficial because I could just sink all this whatever's going on in here,
Yeah.
like for 3 hours straight into editing and figuring out like what.
Totally. Yep.
If I like force you to consider like what acts of creation you would find compelling if you could bring to life something that is of your own making now, what would excite you?
I think I'd like to really learn a craft. Honestly. Like, I've always enjoyed, when you start a theater company, you kind of got to do everything yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so, I learned how to do carpentry and I learned how to make stuff. We put together sets and you learn how to do that stuff.
I didn't know that about you. Oh, that's
Awesome. Yeah. And so,
But the danger is you learn how to do it for like a play, right?
Yeah.
So like I can make stuff that looks really great from about 15 feet away and lasts for a month. Right?
Oh, that's crazy.
But it's funny because like I actually really enjoy like making things and like doing things around the house. Like I like doing crap to my house. And so, you know, like I'll remodel my basement. But like I'm not super good at it.
Yeah.
Right? But after you've done it once, then you're like, geez, if I could do it again, I'd be pretty good the second time. But you're like, well, it's done. So like I'm gonna be like redoing my basement sometime this next year. And so I think I would love to learn a craft. I think I'd love to, because like you said, making something. It's fun to work with your hands. It's fun to like have something tangible to show for your time.
Totally.
And so I think I'd like to learn how to make something really well. I don't know what it would be.
You think we're dinosaurs, us who like love tactile things?
I don't know. I think a lot of people like tactile things.
Really?
Yeah, I really do.
I just think that we have less exposure to it.
It's frustrating.
It's like being outside, right?
Yeah.
Think about how many people don't go outside. They spend so much of their time inside, right?
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, and it's easy to do. And it's like, sometimes it's like, well, going outside and going like you're just going to go someplace for an hour. Like go for a walk. And it's like, oh, for what?
Yeah, for what purpose?
Yeah, just to go outside. It's like good. It's like good for you. And
I know.
And it gets your mind going. And so, I mean, I think like anything else has a habit to it. But yeah, I mean, I think, are we dinosaurs?
Well,
Yeah,
because for us,
the-
the tactile is a need.
Yeah.
It's not a. I didn't know you were so handy. That's awesome to hear. I mean, I know it's for set building, but I didn't realize these sets were you. Like,
Yeah, me and my business partner Carl would build them all.
oh, that's so. Turning of the screw, turning of
the
screw.
Yeah.
Was that built by you? Like,
Yeah, me and Carl built it. Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, when we wrote, like we built a set. Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, build it all.
Because the Gremlins is always looking like a woodworking shop.
Sometimes, yes, yeah, that's
Not
right.
always, but like oftentimes when I'm in there, there's a bunch of like
Bunch of stuff being built.
yeah,
That's
stuff
right.
being built, and I
Yeah.
didn't realize that's you guys.
Yeah,
just,
that's
like,
us. That's it. Yeah.
working behind the scenes. Getting it
Yeah,
done.
and I love that. So like, I don't actually want to give that up.
No.
You know, like I could hire somebody to do that,
I would never do that.
but
yeah.
it's fun.
I would love to just
Yeah.
learn that stuff.
It's really
myself.
fun, and we do the lights, you know, and like my technical knowledge is usually like being the assistant to stuff. Because like I said, my friend Carl, he's the guy who knows all the tech side of everything.
Yeah.
But like I've spent so many years of my life on a 10-foot ladder, like hanging lights and
I had no idea.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you ever like make money as a handyman or something like that?
For a while, when earlier in my career, yeah, I did hardwood floors.
Damn, dude, I had like a hunch, but that's so amazing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You're like sort of like my money job that I started out with that really got me going after teaching. I started out teaching.
Yeah.
Was software engineering, Salesforce software.
Yeah.
And I just hated it. Like I'm not built for it. It's really nuts, you know. Like you think the Indian in me, you know, like it's what we fucking do, you know.
Sure.
But I couldn't do it. Even the simplest shit, they'd be like build an email, right? Like build an HTML email.
Yeah.
It's considered like the most rudimentary, like to proper programmers, HTML and CSS. It's not even considered a programming language. It's like
It's like paint by number.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, like how does someone do, like, you know, I would literally rather like, I don't know, build you a box. If I've got to learn how to do that and do that instead, like here's a box. You know?
No, totally. Yeah.
Or, like
It's a pencil holder.
I'd rather paint your wall.
Sure. I like painting.
Because that's a real thing. It's real. It's in the world.
Totally.
Yeah, like building this email, and email's not even a real thing. Emails are just like these annoying little mosquitoes that like people send each other.
Yeah.
So I just can't, you know, but it took me a long time to realize, like, because knowledge work is what you are respected for, like, whatever, Indian society
Yeah,
or whatnot.
sure.
Like, you're not respected for physical labor.
Sure.
You're only respected for
Look
knowledge.
down on if you have to do it.
You look down. It's a huge inspiration for why I wrote, or, you know, wrote this story, because they're looked down upon for their physical labor.
Sure. Yeah.
But without the physical labor, like,
Nothing else
empires would not be built.
No.
Somebody's got to make it.
Someone's got to make it.
Yeah.
What would you say drives you in this era of your career now? Actually, I have one more question before that.
Yeah, wait.
Have there been different eras of your career since you started doing those productions with your friends?
Yeah.
Can you pinpoint, like, this was this season of my life?
Yeah, let me see if I can do that a little bit. So, yes, I think it kind of lines up a little bit with like, so when I first started, you know, like we were all young and we were doing these shows and it was, you know, it was for fun. We were sort of like building our career, but we didn't really earn any money from it, right? Which is why I do hardwood floors and our stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so then there became a time when it switched over to like, no, actually I earn money from this. you know? And so that was after a couple of years. And so that was probably the next phase where I'm like, oh, actually now I'm starting to work at other places. And people
How long
will
was
pay
that
me.
transition from doing your own shows to like people hiring you, noticing you?
It was, I would say it was like 5 years.
So 5 years old.
Working on
For
your
5 years, it was just mostly my stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like during that time,
I became a much better actor.
Yeah.
Right? I learned how to like manage my time. I learned how to do a production. I mean, that was all also formative for like building this company.
Right.
But it's also the thing too where, you do have to support yourself. So if you're not supporting yourself through what you're doing, it's sometimes difficult to put away I got to make a living and, take up the career that you want to do. Mm-hmm. So there comes a time though where you're like, I can start actually choosing to do this because people are going to pay me for this. Yeah. Right. And so I'd say that the next part of it would be that sort of transitional period where it was like, hey, I'm making money from this. This is great. And now I can consider that. And then I think the next period of that would be like, now I'm an established,
now you're like
I'm an established person. This is how I do it.
How did that transition come about? If people don't realize like that the work of making your own stuff, working on yourself, it is like 5 years seems like an accurate amount of time to spend like getting your foundation. Because by then you really know yourself as an actor. Like you know a lot more about.
you're better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also like, if you're 22, there's roles for 22-year-olds, sure.
Right.
But like by the time you're like 27, there's a lot more, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you've spent that time getting better and learning how to be an actor in every sense of the word, then you're a lot more employable, right? And you've also by that point, if you've been doing stuff, we used to do several shows a year. So eventually people hopefully notice you and they're like, that guy's pretty good. Why don't we have him in for something?
Do you feel like outreach was any part of your success? Did you reach out to casting directors and agents and all this stuff, or did you let them come to you?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
A little bit of both. I certainly had an agent. I still do, although we're not in very heavy contact very often.
It's all depends how it is. You get like one commercial every 6 months. You're like, I want to go to this, right?
Yeah,
and you're
I'm like, I'm into it. Yeah.
It's like,
I don't need this. Yeah, totally. So I had an agent, and then you network with people, right? You start to meet people, and then they might come and see your stuff, and then you might reach out to them. Like it's a combination of them reaching out to you and you being proactive. Like if you're not proactive, you won't have a career.
Yeah.
But like proactive towards whom? Right? And in what way? So like, if you get an agent, right? If you're in an agency, mm-hmm. if you're not constantly hustling and constantly trying to show them that you're serious about it and like working really hard and reminding people that you exist, they'll lose interest because they're going to focus on the people who do that.
Yeah.
Right?
There's only so much brain space.
That's right. So like, it's funny, as a person who both gets hired and hires other people, it's amazing how often you'll be like, oh, I totally forgot about that person. We should have him in.
Yeah.
And then you realize people do that about me too, right? Oh yeah, I totally forgot. Why don't we call him up and see if he wants to do it? So sometimes it's even just like reminding people you're alive and inviting them to come see something, or like going to an audition, or like being like, hey, you want to go out for a drink or have some coffee or something? Like that stuff all makes a huge difference. But at a certain point, it's because you start to build a career.
I think outreach cannot exist by itself. Because no one can sell something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, right.
So, like, one regret that I had is that before I had anything, my only priority was getting the agent.
Okay.
There was no, like, I did, like, college shows here and there and stuff, but, like, I kind of dropped, I was like, just the agent. Give me the agent.
Yeah.
And then I got one, actually.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, Michael Zanuck Agency in LA. I got one, but I still realized, like, nothing is happening. And then, even with Minnesota, I've like reached out to Jen Listman, right?
Sure, yeah.
Friends at the Guthrie, who was like perhaps the most renowned theater company.
She's the casting director here at the Guthrie, yeah.
Yeah, right. The Guthrie is like from Minnesota or it's maybe even in the Midwest. It's very respectable.
It's the nation's leading regional theater, so.
Yeah, like even LA and NYC actors, even Hollywood actors, they come in all the time to audition to be in productions here. Mark Rylance was in some shows here.
Yeah.
But I went straight to Jen Listman. I was like, okay, let me reach out to her.
Why not? Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, nothing's happening. Like nothing's being generated here, you know?
Yeah.
And I think one thing I'm also learning from this conversation with you is that you should never treat any project as small or big or anything, because at the end of the day, being an actor or being a professional for the work you love, the feeling is kind of the same when you take it seriously, regardless of the scale.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And the other thing is, like, if you're going to bother to do this job in this profession, like, why would you? It's your time. Like, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
So why don't you take it seriously and have a great time while you're doing it? Like, throw yourself into it. You know, it's your time. Do you want to waste it or not? You know, I think it's, yeah, that's absolutely true.
I think you can treat anything. There are certain spaces in your life where you can just treat it totally as sacred or like regal or something really important and profound to you.
Yeah.
And one thing I learned that from was actually Rolando on, you know, the River Rats film is framed by a narration device between two characters.
Yeah.
Talking back and forth, the story is being related. It's an easy way to put a steady shot in to explain the story. In
Totally.
ways, yeah. And Rolando, his character was a complete throwaway. Like, he did not matter at all. Rolando and even the captain, though the captain mattered a bit more. Like, I was like, who are they? The captain and John. Sure, fucking John. I literally named him John because I didn't care about the character. Right?
Sure.
So, like, I don't give a fuck what his name is. It's John.
Sorry, John's out there. Yeah, it's a good name.
It's a good, there's nothing wrong with it.
Good name, yeah.
Solid name, but it's like, it's not a name you think about when you're writing it.
Well,
oh, John.
it is the name we use for the guys who pick up prostitutes.
That's right. That's right. And let's never forget that.
Right?
And I think Rolando based his character around that.
Yeah, it's a very sexually charged and deprived
Yes.
character. But Rolando came into that scene, and I had told Rolando about that character probably like 8 months before I even finished the script, or like, it was like, okay, Captain and John. I wrote a draft of it. Rolando would periodically talk to me about the character, and he's like, I was like, dude, you're going to have like 1 page of dialogue. Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I've been practicing the accent. What do you think about this? And he's like, I really think John would be like this. And I was like, dude, in my mind, it was like, you're not an actor for, like, this isn't Steven Spielberg. This is my shitty fucking short film that no one wants to watch. And I haven't even finished the script. And you were literally like, I don't actually think this way, but sometimes when I get into my, you know, down
Spiral? Yeah.
you know, that's right.
I'm worthless. Yes, exactly. What have I done?
Nikhil, you feel this way. Why the fuck did I put myself through 3 months of your whole damn thing? But,
Totally, yeah. Biggest regret of my life.
yeah. But I was like, Rolando, why are you taking this so seriously, dude? It doesn't even matter. First of all, my entire movie doesn't matter, but your role definitely doesn't matter, okay? But then eventually the day came, right, where it was a Rolando on set.
Yeah.
And I was behind the camera. And there would be times where I'd even notice he would be rehearsing the lines, and there would be Irish music playing from his bedroom
Great.
while he was rehearsing the lines, and he was just thinking about what everything meant. And then it came time where he was on set, and then everything he did that day, I was like, there is nothing I can do to compete with this moment being important. Because this dude has single-handedly made this whole thing so fucking important.
Aren't you glad he did?
Yeah, and then I realized, like, oh my god, this effort did not go wasted. Like, that was, I might as well have been on $100 million movie set, because Rolando decided that's how important that day was.
Yep.
And you can choose to come into things
Yeah.
with that level of sacredness. And I wish I would have done that more often early on, because I saw everything as like a stepping stone. I was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Fuck this shit will play. Like, I can't wait till I get a better
The next
position.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, you'll never feel like you're on an important set if the current set isn't important.
Right.
That's a really good way to think about it. It has to be. It has to be important. And why not make it important, right? Going back to this, like, well, why don't you want to do as well as you can, right? I mean, at a certain point, someone hired you to do as well as you can.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you want to do that? And the thing is, you know, like, going back to Rolando, I mean, it paid off. I mean, as I said, I thought you did fabulous.
fucking
You're
crushed
great.
it. Yeah.
Great on camera. Great. And, like, really well thought out and alive all the time.
Extremely loud.
That's what
And he
you're supposed
elevated the other actor, because when you're around that, you can't help
Can't
it.
help but be like, oh, yes.
Correct. So yeah, that's what you should do, and that's
That's exactly it. Yes. Take it as seriously as you take anything else. You know, it's funny, like, sometimes this happens where this is the difference I think sometimes between like a professional and a non-professional tour, or like someone who's serious about what they're doing, serious about their craft, is that they are going to approach it that way. And if they don't, then it's always worth asking as an employer, right? Or a casting, well, why not? Why wouldn't you do that? You know, it's like if you're working at a big theater, you're going to do like 8 shows a week, okay?
Right.
And so every one of those ones has got to be as important as every other one, right? So it's a Wednesday matinee. Well, so what? These people deserve to see your best as much as the Saturday night show, right? And you don't know who's going to be watching. You just don't know.
Yeah.
Anytime you do something, you don't know who's going to watch. And they may have only that to judge your ability on.
Right.
You know? So, like, you should probably do well. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah? Which is why I mailed it in on River Rats.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the pay that got.
It was the money. It was the money. I did it for the money. Yeah.
But I would say one of the biggest things I even learned, I got into marathoning for a little while, and I feel as if I'm fully over it now. Like I don't like.
You've done that?
I feel as if I've done it. I can't. Maybe it'll come back again.
It's an achievement.
It's an achievement, yeah.
For sure.
But one thing I noticed with that I didn't realize before is I run because it oxygenates my brain. It makes me feel good.
Yeah, great.
I run a couple miles here or there.
Great.
But if you have like a tune-up race and you have a goal marathon time that's like 2 months out, it's so strange the way you wake up that morning because it's just a random Saturday and it just doesn't matter. It could be the same Saturday, but that day everything's laid out. You kind of know what you're going to eat. You have a plan for literally eating these simple foods.
Yeah. And it's kind of exciting and intense.
It's extremely intense.
Yeah.
And then because you were so prepared and intentional with the execution of that one thing, you do better than you ever have. You do something, I think the first time I did a tune-up race, I'd never done one before. Like, you go out and run a 10-mile race, like we had Goldie's race this April.
Yeah.
I did 10 miles in 7:38 per mile. And
Good.
I was like, how did I, for me, that was one of the first big breakthroughs in running.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I was like, how did I do that? And it's just literally because I woke up one morning and I took it as seriously as I possibly could.
Yeah.
But when I finished that race, I was gonna die. And there was no reason to do it except all this insane intentionality that was poured around that thing. Mm-hmm. And it's just making me realize that you can bring that quality to your work no matter who you are, what your standing is.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you choose to do that, you elevate, you elevate like 100 miles around you. Or there's a radius around it.
has an effect.
Fully elevated.
Yeah.
And on the contrast of that, you see people who do have a lot of status and a lot of power, but they start phoning it in.
They don't take it seriously. And then that starts to permeate all the other work that's there too.
Yeah, and it doesn't. The scale doesn't matter. I think about Gladiator 2, which just came out.
Okay.
I don't know if have you watched.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily needed to watch, but have you seen the first one?
Yeah.
Okay. Ridley Scott is now, and he's a great director. He's made so many movies.
Yep.
He's like, in terms of the handling scale and all this stuff, few directors, especially at 86 years old,
Yeah, right.
have done as much as him. But he's now developing a reputation of kind of like, sure, just, whatever. And if you look at the reviews online of Gladiator 2 and all this stuff, it's I think a $300 million movie.
Jeez, yeah.
And they fully recreate ancient Rome. They've built a Colosseum. Not only that, they CGI mix whatever. They flood the Colosseum to show like a shark bow.
Sure.
In terms of scale, right? Like
It's huge.
There is no possible way of it's about as scale gets.
Yeah.
Especially mixing practical with CGI.
Right.
And the movie got extremely middling reviews, not well received. And one thing you hear about him in the production is that there was no. They were trying to get everything done early. It's kind of like the reputation that he's developing as director.
Yeah.
He's they're well, why would he do it that way? He's like, it's a fucking movie. Who cares? That's the way the conversation.
Interesting. Yeah.
I'm not saying this is universal, but Hollywood certainly has a reputation in many respects. Where people are
Just do it. It doesn't matter.
just shoot 8 different angles and we'll just
I'll piece it together later.
piece it together.
Yeah.
Just fix it in post.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And so, I mean, it just goes, it's, you know, you can bring things up or you can bring things down, but it comes down to the human.
It does. And I think you also, I think I understand the temptation sometimes to want to like give up on a project if you're like, this isn't going anywhere. This isn't going to be great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there's also this, but there's something that's way better, more human about it. If you're like, well, I'm not going to think about how good or how bad this thing is, right? I'm going to pretend as if it has all the chance in the world to be great.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to give that sort of level of dedication and take it as seriously as that. And who knows what's going to happen. But again, it's your time. So if you want to sit around and be like, I can't believe I'm doing this like mediocre thing for the next 2 months. Well, great. How's that feel? That feels terrible, right? But if you act as if, or even like pretend that like, hey, this could be great, or I don't know if this is bad or if this is good, but I might as well work my butt off and do it as well as I can, then at least you have the satisfaction of doing that, and you might learn something from it too. It won't have been time that you wasted.
Yeah.
Even if the show ends up being like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, you're never going to get your time back. So you might as well treat it well.
I think some people just have the frustration of not being where they want to be.
Sure.
And they let it permeate their space. I mean, it can be as simple as like, you have a bartending job and you don't want to work in service anymore.
Yeah.
Because you'd rather do this other thing.
Sure.
And I definitely have been guilty of that mindset in the past, but I regret that every time now.
Yeah.
Even with my YouTube videos and my YouTube channels.
Sure.
So at times, it has been just about the money, or it's just been about getting through the month.
Sure.
Or it's like...
Well, sometimes you got to have money. Oh, let's be
Yeah.
honest. You know,
Yeah.
you sometimes have to do that.
Absolutely, yeah. But even in the effort of that and the work of that, you know, one of my favorite compliments that I've seen online given out to other people or occasionally have received is, he didn't need to go that hard.
Sure. Yeah, great.
Like, yes, I didn't need to go that
No,
hard.
you went above the expectation.
Yeah, I did it. I went that hard because I love being alive.
Totally. Yes.
Yes. Why not be alive?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And it's interesting, like the ways in which we deaden ourselves or we pull back from being alive. It's just fascinating. And it's like a tendency that we all have as human beings. This goes back to like being afraid or not trying.
Yeah.
Right? Well, you're not going to get this day back. So what are you going to do? It doesn't mean every single day you have to like push yourself to the limit. I don't mean that.
Yeah.
But don't waste it.
I know. I'm trying to remember that you're reminding me of it sitting here with you. 2 years ago, the podcast would get a lot of performance. It get really good views.
Yeah.
So I shoot these podcasts, not all the time, but with some degree. And I'd be like, all right, it's a podcast day.
Sure.
Now, the podcast is not getting as many views as it was 2 years ago. But
That's why I'm on it.
one of my biggest regrets is not having you on sooner. I actually was like, when I reached out to you this April, it had been some time since I'd worked with you.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
I don't know, maybe like it's 8 months or something since I worked with you.
Yeah.
It was enough time for me to be like, damn, I missed the era of my life where I was working with Peter. I was feeling some sort of like, man, I miss being an actor. Like,
Yeah.
you know, for a while I was like, oh man, I miss being an actor. Like Peter and I used to do these things. The director series used to do so well.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
So I was almost like, I was afraid to reach out to you because I thought maybe you'd forgotten me or you'd forgotten, like, you're like, I don't know, it'd been so long that you're kind of like, sometimes people are like that.
Sure,
It's been so long. Like,
Yeah.
But in this season and like whatever, every time a podcast is starting up again, I get nervous.
Sure.
And I love that. So like
great.
today I was nervous. I was like, even telling Rolando, I was like, if anything's wrong, because Peter's driving over, let's just test everything out by 11 so that we can tell him by 11 in case something, we should make it work or something.
Yeah.
But I was like,
Which is very thoughtful. Seriously.
Yeah. But I was like, I want to really make it work. I want the shot, like the shot on you and the shot on me to look good.
I think I'm on the right track in this season of my life in many respects with the work, because and a lot of that it was relearned. A lot of that was relearned during the production of River Rats, because I was so afraid every shoot on that.
You didn't let on to that, by the way. Like every once in a while you'd tell me like, I'm really nervous about this, or like, I'm not sure how this is going to go.
Yeah.
But you did maybe not for the crew so much, but like you did a great job of like, I didn't know how nervous you were. I didn't know how fearful you might have been about something. So good. Like that's the way you should be.
You see, the thing about like the early pains of production after the first Wabasha night shoot, I was miserable about my execution that day.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I mean, that's what halted production for a bit more than anything, was like me being like, this isn't even worth doing if I don't get it together a little bit, you know?
Well, you learned what you needed to do.
Yeah.
And that's important, right? So then you did, and then you did it, which is huge. Instead of being like, no, I'm not going to try anymore.
I sort of cut off your earlier question, but I asked you what the different phases were. Oh, yeah. So there was
like
the 5 years where you were doing it yourself.
Beginning, putting your own company together, getting some experience.
And then starting to get some roles because people are coming to your productions, they're taking notice of you.
Yep. And then so working for other people and starting to like have that be actually like a legitimate part of your income.
Yeah.
Right? And then transitioning into being like, this is actually what I do, and I've made a career at this, and now I'm working, I'm working more at the top of the game. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then from then it's just sort of like iterations of that. It's now it's still kind of that, but like I'm lucky in that I get to mostly do things that I'm interested in working on. Yeah. Which is cool. And I have a lot of control over stuff that way, and I get to do things that are of interest. And I get to make things happen. I get to, like, being a producer is fun because you can bring a story to life. You're like, I think this would be really cool to do. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's why I love it over being just an actor.
Yeah, me too.
I feel a strong desire to, because like you said, it takes a long time to make something.
Yes, it does.
Especially when you do it in the way that we describe, where you want to come up to set every day.
Yeah, right. Yep.
With that sacredness on set.
Totally.
And so you're like, okay, it's going to be a huge investment of my time. You only get to really make one thing every so often. And then there's a little bit of a recovery period from different projects. I mean, depending on, you can jump right into something else.
You always need recovery at some point. Like, if I've been in a situation where I've gone from like show to show to show to show to show to show, I can feel that like I need a little bit of recovery. Yeah. I gotta have it. Yeah.
And it's good because it means like you created something that requires recovery from. If you can go at a steady rate for indefinitely, then
maybe you could work a little harder.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, you should feel like you need to.
Yeah.
Eventually, January is shaping up to be a really fun month because I realize, okay, we're gonna when we start up again, it's gonna be really fresh. It's gonna be like but right now I'm writing the pages. I'm kind of like looking at locations. I'm figuring things out.
You've got the producer brain on. You've got the writer brain on. Yeah. You've got all these other logistical things that are happening.
And it's great. It's giving me a little bit of time to like make money and like figure out like the production, how to make the production work. And
well, you got to have money or it doesn't happen, right?
No,
There's nothing wrong with that.
No,
nothing
not
at all. No. It's especially when it's in service to something. But I mean, I think sometimes people just they can also get a little caught up in like I have to be this like super creative, this or that thing. Like there's so much value in just like earning a good, honest living. It sounds like the stupidest thing in some ways, but it's like, it's so true. Like if you take pride in what you do and you do it as well as you can and you make a living and you provide for yourself or for your family, whatever, like that's great. That's actually great.
It is.
And it's something to like work towards and be proud of.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So just do that. And like we're lucky in that we get to do the things that we love, right?
Absolutely, yeah. But we assumed a lot of risk early on. And continue to assume a lot of risk. And also, we wake up every day kind of like on the hunt in a way. Even if the next project is lined up.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing about YouTube or acting or directing is like every day really, really matters. Yeah. And it keeps me young. It keeps me sharp. Yeah. Whereas when I was working corporate, it's really crazy. Sometimes in a corporate setting, not always, but you get paid for work that you did not do. Because if you're on a salaried employee, which is a great position to be, it's not like my email that's being sent. I was an email specialist, which felt like the most trivial job in the world. But like, it's not like my company. It's not like my enterprise. But you move. Even that's why I love working for myself. Yeah. If I was lighting or setting up someone else's podcast. Or even if I was doing this for CBS and I was like the host for CBS and you were just the guest on there, I would still try. But because this is mine and you are my guest, you're not CBS's guest. I have to I want to get.
Matters in a different way.
It matters in a different way.
Well, and this goes, I think, but you're right that like I think one thing that's very similar about you and me, and probably a lot of people that are interested in what you have to say, right? That watch you, that are interested in your advice. Is like there's an entrepreneurial spirit And there's this sense of like, I want to do something. I want to make something. I want this to be mine, not from a selfish standpoint, but like I want to be my own boss. I want to create a company. I want to be successful. I want to do these things. I want to do them, not work for somebody else, right?
Right.
And like that entrepreneurial and risk-taking spirit is really important, and it's crucial. And some people have it and some people don't. That's definitely true.
Yeah.
But I think
Gene.
Yeah, I think so. But I think a lot of people who might have it
Yeah.
need to know that it's okay to pursue it, and need to know a little bit more like, well, how do I do that? Right? Oh, it's okay to do that. Oh, it's all right to take a chance. It's all right to, this is what I got to do. I got to work hard like this. I got to think this out. I got to, whatever. I got to not be afraid to fail, whatever it might be. Like some people need some more coaxing, right? Yeah. Until it becomes a habit and something that you get driven to do. And the people that are, they really are driven, but it doesn't mean that you can't nurture and develop that too, if that's a part of your makeup.
If you live intentionally, like the gratitude for existence, it all seeps into things coming together. It makes you very potent. I think it makes you very rare. Yeah. Like I would say you are a very rare person in the sense that it's not a lot of people you see who are 49, really fit, really young, like mentally and like passion-wise, really young still. And you do bring that sacredness to everything that you do. Like I showed before we screened River Rats, I showed it to like 3 people, and they're like, "Is that guy from Ireland? Is that guy Irish?" How about you?
Okay, great.
Brian Griffiths, I know you don't feel like whatever about your accent, or
sometimes it's better than others. Yeah, but yeah,
but I see.
I think when the scene is activated, when things are going, I think you show up to set kind of like the day that like it really matters. Like for you, it might as well be a Steven Spielberg movie. It makes no difference. Like it is as important as anything else.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that, because that's the way I approach it.
It is, right? Yeah. The last question I want to leave you with, is there anything new? Is there any process of reinvention for you on your horizon as you move into another leg, another year?
Reinvention? No. I would say not reinvention. Except to the extent that like, the thing about doing like having a career where it's like project to project to project to project to project is that in a sense like you do get a chance to like reinvent something every single time you take it on, right? Because you're like, well, what are the parts of me that I bring to this, and like what do I need to learn? How do I fill this person out, right? Or how do I bring this story to life? And there's things that you accumulate. There's things that are true about you, but there's also like this need to, I guess, to reinvent this new person that you're going to be on stage. And I would say that I know that in the future, especially as I get older, right, I'm going to be reinventing myself a little bit in terms of like just, you start taking different kinds of roles, different kinds of stories, different sorts of things that you're telling and reasons for doing it. And so I do look forward to that. It's something that happens like gradually, I think, but you do go through these kinds of stages. I guess I'm just always interested in getting better.
That's badass.
Yeah.
That's badass. Well, this has been another episode of the podcast. We are extremely consistent. The ambition is 25 episodes this year. Peter and I have known each other for 5 years' time, or 6 years' time, actually. I did my first show with him back in 2018.
Yeah, summer 2018.
And yet, finally, I got him on. Hopefully, we'll have him on again at some point. If you haven't seen River Rats Part 1, it's live on YouTube right now. Peter does a great job in it. My performance was elevated due to being his co-star. And Rolando, who's running the cameras right now, is also in it, and he's just a fabulous actor. If you're a Minnesota local, check out the Gremlin Theater. Go on their website. They're doing shows all the time. I think like 3 to 5 shows a year you guys do. Peter's the artistic director there, and he builds the fucking sets, okay? So the Gremlin is absolutely worth checking out and worth supporting. It's a great, great theater. And with that, we want to thank you for tuning in to this episode. It's going to be live everywhere podcasts are put up, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so on. So you can check it out, listen to it on your runs. But with that, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.